In the quiet isolation of his laboratory, Robert Monroe began dictating the contents of anomalous data packets he called Rotes. This was a process of strict physical wakefulness, utilizing left brain logic to unroll complex information into readable text. By steadily processing this data over the years, Monroe isolated a persistent structural anomaly concerning the nature of our physical existence. The Rote reveals human existence as a self-sustaining cycle of dependency, a closed loop of behavioral relapse. Within this framework, every conscious entity currently navigating physical Earth is a patient caught mid-cycle in an active systemic addiction. Some arrive out of sheer curiosity, treating the physical constraints of Earth as a sprawling amusement park where normal rules are temporarily suspended. Others come specifically because they witnessed a graduate of the system and want to replicate that success. Entry requires a mandatory agreement. The arriving entity must accept the full reality of time and space, the severe limits of a biological body, and a near-total erasure of whatever memories existed prior to signing. The immediate physical result is the shock of birth, a sudden, overwhelming bombardment of gravity, hunger, and the weight of 5 separate senses activating simultaneously in harsh light. By accepting these terms, the entity trades a broader awareness for raw, intense sensory input. The disorientation is so complete that by the time the initial curiosity wears off, the visitor has forgotten how to leave. This visualizes the immediate environment waiting outside physical life, a dense, chaotic frequency of uncontrolled thought that Monroe classified as M-band noise. This noise is generated by those trapped close to the physical realm. The dreamers hover here, blindly acting out the habits of their waking lives, while the locked-ins remain unaware their physical bodies have died, endlessly haunting homes and graves. The wild ones contribute the most volatile spikes. Having mistaken their lack of a body for a license to act without restraint, they attempt to replicate base physical pleasures without the hardware required to process them. This inner ring is a stagnant holding pen, sustained entirely by a collective inability to let go of physical fixation. Further out lies the major ring, split by a boundary called the null point. Here, the gravitational pull of the human time-space illusion meets the entirely incompatible physics of non-physical reality. Monroe identified a specific addictive factor called survival drive distortion. Basic biological necessities like food and shelter steadily bloat into the hoarding of resources, complex legal frameworks, and armed conflicts. Even reproduction detaches from its original purpose, becoming an obsessive pursuit of the physical sensation itself. This is coupled with prime energy diffusion. The pure creative energy meant to propel an entity outward is instead scattered into generating anger, guilt, and the constant maintenance of a human ego. When the ego consumes these energy reserves just to sustain itself, the entity's perspective shrinks. Over centuries, this depletion leads to orbital decay, a state where the weight of local illusions finally exceeds the energy required to escape them. This energetic depletion eventually erases the memory of any existence outside the physical. The entity becomes so thoroughly grounded, it loses the desire for change, ensuring a continuous loop of reincarnation based on nothing but lack of momentum. Amidst the heavy gravitational drag, the data revealed exactly one emotional frequency capable of surviving the major ring intact. Monroe termed it superlove. It operates on entirely different physics. It requires no physical matter to exist, attaches to no specific object, and demands zero expectation of return. It is a continuous, indestructible radiation. Cultivating this specific frequency of independent energy provides the only reliable thrust capable of counteracting the immense gravitational weight of the human addiction cycle. Preparing for a successful exit requires a rigid, practical detoxification regimen. Monroe recorded this as the crib sheet. It begins with starving the ego. You adopt the grazing principle, addressing only the moment directly in front of you, rather than stockpiling anxiety about an uncontrollable future. You must actively sever survival sex ties. This means cleanly separating basic biological attraction from the higher frequency of superlove, enjoying the former without needing it to be the latter. Emotion must be systematically detached from physical possessions. At the same time, rigid local judgments of right and wrong are discarded as temporary illusions. Finally, the sleeping hours are repurposed. Rather than a mere biological pause, sleep becomes an active tool for absorbing profound non-physical data. Escaping the trap depends on the active, clinical, and conscious severing of every emotional cord tying the soul to physical matter. Readiness for exit is measured entirely by the load-energy ratio. The process demands an active, continuous trade, shedding dense illusions in order to accumulate weightless wisdom. When the protocol is complete, the internal physics of the entity shift. It stops merely reflecting the energy of its environment and sparks into a self-sustaining generator. Stripped of its accumulated weight, the detoxified unit accelerates outward. It breaches the outer ring of the last-timers, shattering the decaying orbit entirely. Breaking the gravitational pull of the ride allows the entity to finally enter the open interstate of reality. Mastery of these local physics provides the necessary escape velocity. The long stretch of local traffic is over.